Alright, let's be real for a second. Have you ever just waited around, hoping someone would come through for you? Maybe it's a friend helping you move, a partner giving you a push to chase your dreams, or even your boss finally noticing how hard you're grinding. It feels good to think that someone's got your back. But here's the thing. Relying too much on others can really mess with your mindset. Neuroscience actually shows that our brains crave control and predictability. When you put your progress in someone else's hands, your brain goes into this weird state of uncertainty, like it's hanging in the balance. And that's stressful. Philosophers like Nietzsche talked about the idea of self-reliance, how real freedom comes when you take responsibility for your own life. Relying on others too much? It traps you in a cycle of waiting. Psychologically, it can build dependency, making you feel stuck when people inevitably fall short. It's cool to lean on someone once in a while, but depending on them to move your life forward? That's where it gets tricky. And look, it's not like wanting support makes you weak. We're wired to seek connection. It's literally in our DNA. But there's a fine line between healthy support and losing yourself in someone else's promises. Think about it. When you constantly expect others to come through, you start building your plans around them. You're not really in control anymore. They are. From a psychological angle, that kind of dependence can seriously mess with your confidence. It's like training your brain to believe you can't do it alone. Over time, you start doubting your own abilities because you've always had a backup plan that involves someone else stepping in. That's rough. And yeah, philosophically speaking, it goes back to the whole idea of autonomy. If your happiness relies on someone else's actions, how much of it is really yours? Learning to stand on your own 2 feet isn't just about independence. It's about reclaiming your power. You deserve to be the main character in your own story, not just a side note in someone else's. Here's the wild part. Sometimes we don't even realize we're doing it. Maybe it's because growing up, we were taught that leaning on others is just part of being human. And it is, to some extent. But there's this subtle trap where we mistake support for dependence. Like, instead of using someone's help as a boost, we make it a crutch. Neuroscience has something interesting to say about this. Our brains are wired to adapt, right? So, if you keep relying on others, your brain starts associating their presence with your ability to get things done. It's like building muscle. You stop working out, and your strength fades. Same with self-reliance. Stop practicing it, and your confidence muscles get weaker. Philosophically, it's almost like we're outsourcing our own responsibility. Sartre talked about how freedom comes with a burden, the burden of owning your choices. But when you constantly depend on someone else, you're kind of dodging that. You're saying, I'll move forward, as long as they're here. But what if they're not? That's when reality hits, and it's not pretty. And here's where it gets tricky. We're not just talking about big, life-changing stuff. It's the little things too. Waiting for someone to motivate you to hit the gym, counting on a friend to remind you of deadlines, or hoping your partner will push you to chase that passion project. It feels harmless, right? But every time you do that, you're subtly telling yourself, I can't do this on my own. Neuroscientifically, this pattern actually shapes your brain's pathways. The more you associate progress with someone else's input, the more your brain wires itself to expect that. It's like conditioning yourself to believe you're not capable solo. Over time, that belief seeps into your core identity. You stop trying as hard because deep down, you're waiting for that external push. Psychologically, it's like planting seeds of self-doubt. And when things don't go as planned, when that person doesn't show up, you're left feeling helpless. Existential philosophers like Kierkegaard talked about embracing uncertainty and making choices despite fear. Depending on others can feel safer, but it keeps you stuck in the waiting room of your own life. You've got to ask yourself, are you living your story, or just playing a supporting role in someone else's? You might be thinking, but isn't relying on others part of being human? Yeah, sure, it's natural to seek help and support. No one's saying you've got to do everything solo. The problem starts when your default mode becomes waiting for someone to guide you, or give you permission to move forward. That's when it gets toxic. From a neuroscience perspective, this habit can actually affect your motivation. Your brain has something called the reward system, which lights up when you achieve something on your own. But if you're constantly depending on others, your brain doesn't get that same rush. Instead, it learns that motivation comes from external sources. Basically, you're training yourself to only act when someone else initiates it. In psychology, they call it learned helplessness. When you feel powerless because you've convinced yourself you can't take action independently. And philosophically, think of it like this. True freedom isn't just about doing whatever you want. It's about taking charge, even when it's uncomfortable or uncertain. So, while community and connection are vital, they should complement your journey, not dictate it. Think about it. How often do you put off decisions because you're waiting for someone else's input? Maybe it's texting a friend to get their take before committing to something, or holding back on a new idea because you're not sure how your circle will react. It's like you're giving everyone else a vote in your own life. Neuroscientifically, this ties into how our brains process social validation. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for decision-making, can actually become less active when we constantly look for reassurance. It's like your brain hits pause, waiting for an external cue to move forward. In a way, you're putting your own thoughts on mute, letting someone else's voice take the lead. And it makes sense. Social acceptance is a basic human need. But if you always let it shape your choices, you're not really living your truth. Philosophically, it's like losing your sense of self. Existentialists would say you're giving away your authenticity. You become a reflection of what others think you should be, instead of who you truly are. It's a slow fade, but one day you wake up and realize you've been living someone else's version of your life. Sometimes, it's not just about waiting for others. It's about feeling incomplete without their input. Like, you can't fully trust your own instincts until someone else backs you up. It's comforting, right? But here's the catch. That habit chips away at your self-confidence over time. You start believing that your own judgment just isn't enough. Neuroscience gives us a clue why this happens. Your brain gets a hit of dopamine, a feel-good chemical, when someone validates your choices. It's like a mental high, reassuring you that you made the right move. But the problem? You get hooked on that external validation. Instead of trusting your gut, you're constantly chasing that dopamine hit from others. Psychologically, it's called external locus of control. Believing that your successes and failures depend more on outside forces than your own actions. It's the opposite of empowerment. And from a philosophical lens, it's almost like you're surrendering your freedom. Freedom to make mistakes, to learn, to grow. It's safer to rely on someone else's map, but it also means you'll never fully explore your own path. So, what's the move here? It's not about cutting people off or refusing help. It's about balancing support with self-reliance. Start small. Make a decision without texting 5 people first. Try solving a problem without instantly reaching out for advice. It's uncomfortable at first, but that's the point. Growth usually is. Neuroscientifically, building self-reliance rewires your brain. When you take action on your own, your brain releases dopamine as a reward, reinforcing the idea that you're capable. Over time, this builds resilience. Your brain starts associating independence with success. That's powerful. Psychologically, it's about shifting from an external to an internal locus of control. You start to see yourself as the driver of your life, not just a passenger waiting for directions. And philosophically, it's embracing that life is unpredictable, but you're equipped to handle it. Real freedom comes when you trust yourself enough to make the call, even if it means sometimes messing up. Because honestly, you'd rather live boldly on your own terms than stay stuck in the shadow of someone else's choices.